Hello, I'm Terry Christensen, and this is Valley Politics. Today we'll talk to the person in charge of San Jose's 6,700 employees and $4.7 billion budget. Do you know who that is? I'm not talking about the mayor or council. They set policy for the city, but it's the city manager who actually carries it out and oversees spending. And almost all of those 6,700 city workers answer to the manager, not the mayor or the council. Today we'll meet City Manager Dave Sykes to learn more about his job and some of the challenges of managing our fair city. It's especially important to understand the role of the manager right now because there's serious talk about replacing our current council-manager form of government with a strong mayor system. And then we'll talk with Santa Clara County Registrar of Voters Shannon Bushey about how voting in the March election will be different. She'll explain several changes that should make voting easier and increase turnout. We'll end our show with news about our plans for the coming year, including our election coverage and some changes in our format. And that's what's coming up on Valley Politics. Welcome everyone, and welcome San Jose City Manager Dave Sykes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
So let's begin by just having you tell us what a city manager does, because I'm not sure most people really know.
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective. I even get those same questions from my family. So, to me, there's kind of different pieces to it, and really three main realms that the work I do is in. Certainly, first, I'm here to serve the community, listen to the community. I'm here to support the work of the mayor and the council. And that's the policy work that they do, the important policy work they do. And then the other piece of it, the third leg of that stool, is really leading the organization, the 6,700 employees. I'm the leader of that city. And as you can imagine, the input that we get from the community and the council, and even the work that comes from our own staff, somebody needs to be there to kind of help organize that into a plan of how we move forward. And so that's kind of what I see as city manager's job, bringing some kind of order to the chaos that we work in. I can tell you the job can be demanding, but it can also be super rewarding.
So you get the job by being in San Jose. You're nominated by the mayor and then appointed by vote of the council. In your case, it was unanimous.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
But how do you get to the point where you're even qualified for the job? What's the training for a city manager?
Yeah, and I think, in my mind, there's kind of a couple of paths that you see happening for people becoming managers. Often they end up being kind of a little older like I am because, you need to be somewhat seasoned. I think some kind of get to the role more directly through kind of a career of professional administration and working in a city manager's office and that sort of thing. I think others come to the job more through the technical side of things, like I did, coming up through our public works department. And really, I never had the objective to become city manager. My role as public works director and city engineer was extremely satisfying and rewarding. But ultimately, when I was asked to come to the manager's office 5 years ago, and then when the mayor and council asked me to become the city manager, it's something that I really had to kind of reconcile with in terms of, did I want to do this, and how did I want to serve the city? And so I feel very fortunate to get to do this work. But I think, those are kind of the two paths that I've seen people take to kind of become a city manager.
What about job security? You're hired by the council. Can they fire you on any given Tuesday? Or
yes, that's actually really? The expression that is used.
Yeah.
It would take a vote of 6 of them to do that. Yeah. But I'm at will of the mayor and the council, and it's certainly something that I feel comfortable and I feel is actually very appropriate. That if the mayor and the council feel like I'm not doing the job or they want to go in a different direction, I really feel that's the way the system should work.
And we have seen a few city managers go.
We have.
When council majorities shifted. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So good luck.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because your council majority could also shift, right?
It could shift.
It's a really close 5-6 vote. The mayor with the 6 on a lot of issues now. Well, not a lot of issues, on a few issues. Most votes are unanimous, of course. but on some workers' rights issues, some housing and rent control issues. And there are several seats up in the next election that could shift that balance. How does a manager cope with that kind of change? Are you ready if it happens? It might not.
Well, I think you have to be ready, and certainly recognizing have no control over it, and nor should I. I think I will acknowledge the fact that when we have consensus around things, and that's just not consensus, broad consensus on the council, but broad consensus on the community on issues, we can get a lot done. When we lack that consensus, things can get a little tougher. It can be harder to get work done. And so certainly recognizing when the council is divided, it can make things more challenging. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really change the work. Our job is to bring forward professional recommendations to the council and to provide them with hopefully the appropriate information to make those decisions. So whether it's 6-5 or 11-0, really the work that we should be doing is the same work.
You mentioned that you sort of worked your way up from within city government. That was true of the last couple of city managers too, Deborah Fagoni and Norberto Dueñas. So San Jose seems to have a pattern of recruiting from within, whereas some other cities recruit from a national pool. What do you think are the advantages? Obviously you have a little self-interest in this, but what do you think are the advantages of recruiting from within? Because you do that with your department heads too.
And that's a perfect example. And I do think overall, a mix of people that have come up through the organization and a mix of people that have come from outside the organization is a healthy mix. And certainly when it comes to our recruitments, I think with an inside candidate, you get someone that you know and trust. Certainly probably someone who knows the culture of the city and the organization, and someone that has a kind of a track record. And sometimes there can be risks to kind of going outside and finding that person. I do know that we work in a very dynamic place, and I've seen people that come from outside the organization can be challenged by the pace at which we work and the process at which we work by.
You're generally pretty quiet at council meetings. I've rarely actually heard you speak. So you leave most of the discussion of policy recommendations and answers to the council members' questions to your staff. Is your job mainly to pick the right people to do the specific jobs as department heads or whatever it may be? How deeply do you get into the actual policy discussions?
Certainly picking the right people is key. Interestingly enough, though, in my last evaluation, the council described me as very hands-on. And I think I probably, as I reflect on some of my predecessors, I think I am probably more hands-on than some of them. I can tell you I'm really involved with the operations. I have a pretty strong understanding what's going on day to day. And literally I'm involved with all the policy work that we bring forward to the council. I make sure I'm kind of checked into that, understand it, and in supporting that. I think my engagement in council meetings is pretty strategic. There's meetings where I might not say a word or two. Others I may have to engage quite a bit, to be honest. There needs to be space, though, for the council to do their work, and they need to have direct access to our experts. And I think that's the space ultimately I'm trying to achieve. So if you've been at a meeting where I haven't talked, I would say that's a successful meeting.
That's a good way to put it. I checked recently, and I understand that the city has nearly 800 vacant positions now. When I interviewed the mayor last year, it was 600. The year before when I interviewed him, it was 700. That's like 10% of your workforce, or 10% of your positions unoccupied. What's the problem? Why can't you get those positions filled?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges there. And in this last year, the case of last year, we did add some positions that kind of, in some ways, it's a kind of a moving target. But make no doubt about it, we're in a talent war with other cities and even the private sector, with the strength of the economy, low unemployment. We're all kind of fighting for talented staff. And so I wouldn't say the problem is unique to San Jose. Actually, I know it's not. I meet with all the other city managers on a monthly basis. We're all going through the same thing. There's cities nearby that have an entirely new leadership team. So what we need to do is be as competitive as we can as an employer, compensation, and certainly as a place to work. And I think we offer that. That's why we still have some pretty talented people at the city. But yeah, definitely, we're in a talent war with all of those other agencies and even the private sector that works around us.
I wonder if millennials and the younger generation don't really understand what public service is all about, and how you can work your way up from, like Deborah Fagoni was a recreation leader at Roosevelt Community Center when I first knew her, and then she became city manager.
Yeah.
She worked her way up through a whole bunch of different positions, as did you, to get there. So you don't work at the same job your whole career. Right. The pay's okay. It's expensive to live here, of course, but the benefits are also great, the retirement, the pensions, and so on. And speaking of pensions, how are we doing with San Jose? How's the budget? Last year there was a tiny surplus, I think. Same projected for next year? Are the city services secure? Are the budgets are the pensions of your workers secure?
Well, I think the pensions are secure, and certainly the services are stable, I would say. I think, for 10 years we went through some pretty horrendous shortfalls. The last 8 years we've kind of gone back and forth between minor surpluses and shortfalls, and I think for next year we may be looking at a minor shortfall, something that we can manage. But certainly
that's like a few $1 million
right,
in a $4.7
billion budget, right?
Yeah.
And over the last few years, we've been able to restore positions and services at a kind of an incremental way. We're still not where we want to be in terms of service delivery for our community, so we still have to work hard at being able to afford, that service delivery model that we would like to see.
Which brings me to a question about how slow it sometimes seems to get cities, how slow city services sometimes seems to be. I just finished building an ADU. We had 2 to 4 week waits for our inspections sometimes, and that actually slowed the process down. Some rain slowed it down. There was other stuff too. But I can't imagine what it's like building a really big project. Or I've been working on the Five Wounds Trail for a while, and there's a real estate deal in process. It's 2 years in process. Yeah. Why are things so slow? Is that a staffing issue?
It can be at times, but I wouldn't want to hide behind that. There's no doubt we're lean. We're probably the leanest big city in the country in terms of number of employees that we have per capita. Yeah. But I don't want to hide behind that. I think we're always striving to get better. Certainly development services is where I spent a third of my career. We're doing some great work there, and really there it's kind of the progression we've made from kind of being a regulator and then thinking of ourselves as a facilitator, and now in my mind, and really trying to share with the organization to be able to kind of be a driver, have the city be a driver in smart development and not just kind of rely on the private sector to do what they do. I also spent about a third of my career in the capital project delivery process. This city has a lot to be proud of. We kind of rock it when it comes to delivering capital projects. I will tell you though, trails are the toughest project. And so no excuses, of course, but what goes into a trail project can boggle a lot of people's minds, but hopefully we can do better for you.
Well, I hope so, and I know the city's trying, and I appreciate that, as do my friends advocating for the trail. We've also seen been really good street repaving in the last couple of years, so congratulations on that. That's been a big move forward
thank you.
For the city. I guess back to the budget a little bit, but also relating to development, the Google project. Because one of the reasons we have some structural budget problems in San Jose is an imbalance of housing and jobs. Google will bring a lot of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs, but also some other challenges. And I know you've just appointed your negotiating team for the Google project, so that's all going to happen over the course of the next year. What's your role going to be in that?
Yeah, certainly, the Google and what's going on downtown is one of my main priorities. You talk about the jobs imbalance, super important issue for us. We're only one of the only big cities that has this type of imbalance, and kind of the structural deficit that creates is really challenging. But we're also in the middle of a housing crisis, and we need to build more housing. And unfortunately, the housing that we have, all the single-family housing, really doesn't pay for itself the way the tax structure works. And so the housing that we need to build needs to be higher density, so that we get to a place that is more sustainable, fiscally sustainable for us. I do feel very fortunate to be the city manager at a time that we have some exciting things going on at Deer Dawn. Not just Google, because really we've had a plan for Deer Dawn way before Google came around, and that has to do with how we're going to bring all the transit together there. And I do think I add some value in that in terms of kind of my history with the city and my involvement with bringing forward, major projects. So I'm looking forward to being involved, and we've got some key people that will be leading that effort, and I'm super excited about it. And I just want to also, though, there's some things that we need to address through that project, and certainly there's the issues of displacement, and we'll go through a process of understanding kind of what are the community benefits that we bring to our city from a project like that.
And that's what people are really concerned about, as I know you've heard thousands of times probably already.
Yeah.
There's another idea kind of kicking around lately about changing San Jose's form of government from council manager, as it now is, or mayor council management. It's a little bit of a hybrid right now.
It is, yeah.
To a strong mayor form of government. How do you feel about that? How would you feel about being the chief administrative officer in a strong mayor system?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I think my feelings are actually irrelevant, and because it's not it certainly wouldn't be about me, and it's not even about the city manager. I think the way I look at it is, whatever is best for our community and our organization, I'm going to be supportive of. It's interesting. I do get asked, kind of, hey, that would be a shift of kind of power from the manager to the mayor. And that's not at all what it would be. It is more of a shift from the council to the mayor. Right now, as you know, I work for all 11.
Yeah.
And under that scenario, I might only work for the mayor as well as some of the department heads. And so I think the question to be asked is really kind of, where does that put the council and where does that put the community that the council represents, I think, are the important questions that need to be asked.
Absolutely. We have about 30 seconds left, Dave. Make the case for working for city government. Why should somebody be interested in that?
Yeah, that's an easy case to make.
Okay.
Great opportunity. We talked about all the vacancies. You can come in, develop your career, and have a really good career. We have amazing people working there, and you get to do great work and learn from great people. And I think probably for me, the most important thing, it's a daily opportunity to make a difference in people's lives, a tangible difference in people's lives. And there is probably nothing more rewarding than being able to do that for a city like San Jose.
Well said. Thank you very much, Dave Sykes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, here's our interview with Santa Clara County Registrar of Voters, Shannon Bushey, about important changes in the way we vote here in the Valley. We have some big changes coming in the electoral process and the way we vote in California, especially in Santa Clara County, coming up to the March 3rd election. Let's just start with voter registration. Are there changes in registration, in signing up to vote?
Actually, there's a nice, quick, and easy way for any voter to register to vote. We've had online registration available in which a voter can register from their own house. They can go to our website at www.scc.vote and get the link to go to the Secretary of State's website to register online.
We've also had motor voter for a while now too, so people get registered when they get a new driver's license and so on, right?
That is correct. And when they register online, what the system does is we verify that information with the DMV and grab their signature from the DMV and use it in our file. And if they don't have a DMV record or like an ID card or driver's license, then they can just use our paper form, sign it, and send it in to us. So it's really simple.
That's great. Is there a deadline to get registered?
There is an official deadline. It's February 17th, but it moves to February 18th because of the holiday, because normally it's 15 days before an election. But when people have missed that deadline, it's not too late anymore, because in 2017, conditional voter registration was passed into law. And that allows a voter to actually register and cast a provisional ballot on the same day. So with the vote centers open to 11 days, they can go to any vote center and still register and cast that provisional ballot on that day, which is going to be great for our voters.
March 3rd is the actual election date, but people can vote at these voter centers as much as 11 days before.
Correct. We do have to get our voters accustomed to with the new voting model and the new greater convenience that they have to go to a vote center up to 11 days early. So now when they're out shopping or going to work or going to the mall on the weekend, they can actually pull over and vote at any vote center they pass.
Doesn't all have to happen on one day.
Correct.
Absolutely.
So we got to encourage our voters to get out and vote early.
But the big change, the biggest change of all, is everybody's going to get a ballot in the mail that they can cast by mail now, right? Everybody in Santa Clara County, I should say.
Correct. All voters will now receive a vote by mail ballot automatically. We're going to mail it to them. We already had about a 75% or more of our voters that were mailed a ballot, but now 100% will receive a ballot, which actually, again, one of our goals of the Voters' Choice Act, the VCA implementation, is convenience for the voters. So now for that person maybe who forgets to request a ballot to be mailed to them, they don't have to worry anymore. We're just automatically going to mail them a ballot.
So that's going to bump turnout up, higher percentage. We had 55% turnout in the 2016 presidential election. It's going to be higher this time.
I can't guarantee that it's going to be
No.
higher because I have no control over voters whether they will vote or not. We do predict, just by what's going on in the world right now, we are hoping for a higher increase because as a Registrar of Voters, we actually hope for 100% in every election. But,
even though it's more work for you.
That's okay. We're all set up and prepared for 100% of our voters to turn out, though, for every election that we conduct.
So you're staffed up for this change?
Yes, we are. We have been preparing for this change for over 2 years in anticipation of the Board of Supervisors passing the Voters' Choice model. So we have been prepared. We've been working on committees. We've been getting community input and stakeholder input and information. And actually, we have developed a 250-plus page election administration plan that we vetted through public consultations, hearings, meetings for several months. And that is actually available on our website for any voter to go read.
So you're ready?
We're ready.
So I'm predicting higher turnout anyway. You're just making it easier for everybody to vote. So I would think a few more people would vote. But what about voters like me? I've always voted in the polling place. I like to go on election day and vote in the polling place. What happens to us? Where's our polling place?
Well, your polling place is now a vote center. So there are many benefits to having a vote center instead of a polling place because now with a vote center, like I said, you can go to any vote center and vote. You're not restricted to your one polling place on election day in your neighborhood. So now you'll be going to your vote center, which will provide more services, more convenience, and actually we'll have additional translators and accessible voting equipment for voters. So it's going to be great for our voters.
And how do we find out where the vote centers are?
We are going to be mailing a list of all the vote centers inside the packet that we mail to every voter with their ballot. It will also be listed on our website and will be listed in the county voter information guide that we also mail to every voter. So there's plenty of places that a voter can
You're
find out.
You're really making it easy.
Yes.
There's almost no excuse not to vote. Certainly convenience is not the reason not to vote.
Correct. Everything has become even more convenient and more easy for a voter to cast a ballot.
What about counting the ballots? Presumably you're going to get more ballots by mail before election day. So election night, when you release your first numbers, there'll probably be more voters being counted by then. Is it going to take as long as usual to get to the final count? Because it takes weeks sometimes, right?
Well, you would think maybe that because we're mailing out ballots to everyone, they're going to return them sooner. But I've worked in elections for 25 years, and voters still do like to send their ballots in at the last moment. We can receive 100, 200,000 ballots on election week alone. I've received over 100,000 ballots on one election day before. So that part I just have no control over when they're going to return it. But as far as results, so we do really kind of have two results that we like to talk about. We have election night results that people wait, and then we have our final results, which we do 30 days after the election. So our election night results are going to be sped up for a couple reasons. We have now implemented a new voting system that is a precinct count-based system. Our prior system was a central count, meaning all paper ballots had to come back to our office on election night, and we had to run them all through the machine. So that's what takes so long. So with our brand new system, that was a requirement that we made, that the new system.
We'll be back next month to kick off our election coverage with local experts handicapping the key contests. Over the course of the year, we'll host candidate debates and provide more expert analysis. As usual, we'll do shows with the mayor and the president of the County Board of Supervisors on the state of the city and the state of the county, but otherwise we'll focus exclusively on the candidates for City Council, County Board of Supervisors, and the state legislature. To ensure adequate time to cover so many races, we'll discontinue our Where Are They Now feature, at least for the coming year. We've recorded over 24 of these interviews, and it's been a pleasure to hear the stories of the leaders and activists who made our local history. We're now repackaging these interviews, most of which aired in 2 or 3 parts, so they can become more easily accessible as single, standalone programs. You'll find them on YouTube by searching for CreaTV San Jose, and scrolling down to Valley Politics History Interviews. We've already posted interviews with San Jose's mayors from 1971 to 2006. You can also catch up on all our previous shows on YouTube by searching for CreaTV San Jose or on our website at creatvsj.org. And you can let us know what you think about our show and suggest future topics or guests by email at valleypolitics@creatvsj.org or on Twitter at @valley_politics, and by following us on Facebook. And now that's all, folks, except to say that this show marks the beginning of the 6th year for Valley Politics. So thanks to CreaTV and our great crew for production support, and most of all to you for watching. Thank you. See you next time.